Hey guys, welcome to Broad Street to Britain, and we are we are 1 week away from opening day. Alex, I'm sat here and I'm thinking about it, and I'm excited, man. I'm literally buzzing right now, guys. Thank you for joining us. It's me, Dave Shaw, as ever, and of course, Alex Carr. Alex, how are you, buddy?
Oh, I just went very
You
blurry in
just
my
blurred
camera.
yourself out in
I
excitement.
don't know. I don't know how that happened. I'm doing great. It's really funny. I don't think I saw opening day sneaking up on us this fast. Um, I guess when you make it pretty far in the postseason and then have a thrilling World Baseball Classic to pay attention to,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
really doesn't. The offseason doesn't feel that long. Not
Absolutely,
gonna
we'll get to the
lie.
World Baseball Classic in just a minute. I've been distracted with the football, obviously. As many of you know, my team Brighton, we've got to Wembley in the FA Cup semi-final at last for the first time in my lifetime. I'm going to see Brighton at Wembley. It's for a team that I support. It these days don't come around too often. You know, we're not a big team. We are we're having the season of our lives, probably the best season we're gonna have. This is probably our 1 year window to try and get into Europe, to get to Wembley, to even win a major trophy for the first time in our history. And we've got Manchester United in the semi-final of the FA Cup at Wembley, and I cannot wait. So that's kept me nicely occupied as well. And then we just had the preview show. If you might have seen the fans preview show, Alex, some wild predictions. Of course, Pete Pratt was bang on form. Yeah, he had the
Love
moment
them.
about the Phils.
Love them. I can't. I truly can't wait to share a drink with that man in a month.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
looking forward to it.
you're over, Alex. Alex, you're over in just what? Just over a month's time.
A month from last week, so it's very close. 3 weeks away, which I can't believe. I
You're
still
gonna
have
have
to do my taxes. Anyway.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, with the preview show, the Braves conservative 107 wins. The Braves fans came out fighting. The Mets 103, 104 wins.
107 wins without a shortstop is
Crazy
pretty
people. You
bold.
know,
I'm not.
I
I'm
only had us
not gonna
down to
lie.
win it all, but you know, come on, 107 win Braves.
That's bold.
It is bold. It is. I don't see it. I just don't see it. And of course, the World Baseball Classic. Alex, I absolutely loved the World Baseball Classic. Before it started, I didn't know what to make of it. I was like, obviously, I'm all in on GB, and I was really excited for GB. And wow, wow, do we even get a win? And then push Mexico so close, and to qualify automatically for the 2026 World Baseball Classic is just incredible. And that Harry Ford home run, man, I lost it. I ain't gonna lie, I lost it. It was what a moment. I didn't realize it would really grip me and everybody else in the UK who was watching and following along as well. What a moment! Like I was celebrating that as much as the Hoskins home run in the postseason. You know, it was incredible, and what it means for British baseball in general. You have no idea. You know, it's been getting mainstream coverage over here in the papers, on the BBC website, on the news, talked about on the radio. I've got people looking at it on BBC website going, "Hey, Dave, GB want a World Cup or like World Cup of baseball as they call it over here." It just makes it easier to relate for people who don't follow the sport. But it was just talked about everywhere, you know, and the success from that is going to be, you know, the main thing is, as Drew Spencer, the GB manager, keeps saying, the main thing from this is that people like Harry Ford are going to be household names. They're going to inspire a generation to pick up a baseball bat, go play baseball, because we need more homegrown players. You know, it's great having all these guys in, setting the foundations and the pathway for hopefully what's going to be in 10, 20 years' time. GB with a great mix of GB players, and the players who've represented GB from the countries all in the Commonwealth and the colonies, and it's been great. It's been absolutely great. And of course, on the GB theme, Gabriel Rincones, home run, first of many. Hearing T Mac call that for Gabriel, I was like, yeah, I can get used to this. This could be the future.
That was pretty cool.
Scotland's own Gabriel
Pretty cool.
Rincones, absolutely awesome. He doesn't know where I asked him if he knows where he's starting yet. He doesn't know. It'll probably high A or low A. But they
I'd say
don't know.
probably low A to
I
start,
think so.
just because he didn't get in last year. So,
I think
but
so. I
I'm
think it's going
psyched
to
for
be
him.
low A. But we will keep you, as of course, listeners, viewers, we will keep you posted on how he's getting on. And then, you know, for me, where do they go from this? The World Baseball Classic, what a success. I was ended up watching games, like Taiwan versus China and Venezuela and Mexico. Such fun teams to watch. The atmosphere was absolutely incredible. It brought life to the sport, and it got people gripped. I was gripped by it. I'm not gonna lie, I was absolutely gripped by it. I loved it. Where can they go from here, Alex? They've got to capitalize on this now.
I mean, I don't think I've had that much fun watching baseball, specifically last night. But I don't think I've had that much fun watching baseball in a long, long time, even during the World Series. And it doesn't help exactly when you're kind of working and covering an event and things like that. But like, it truly, I haven't had that much fun in a long, long time. And I don't know. I really don't know where they go from here, but it really should be a yearly thing. Something has to give, because what it did this year for the growth of baseball
globally.
I mean, I could go on forever about this, but what I saw, like I had friends. I don't have any friends that like watching baseball. I had friends ask me if I wanted to watch the game with them this week, which was insane. That has never happened to me before, because I just don't have a lot of friends that really like baseball. And that to me showed me, I was like, wow, the game is really growing, because like I just couldn't, that's never happened to me before. And that's a pretty big deal from my perspective. So I think that, they have to do something to further involve, if not the WBC, then like some sort of like spring training mashup where, folks come over to the US or they go over there and figure it out, because I cannot say that I've ever seen the public this enamored with baseball. And I live in New York City. So like, I got to see a lot of people from a lot of different walks of life admiring baseball this week. And that was really cool, because I never seen that.
It was like a festival, wasn't it? It was like a worldwide, the crowds, the passion that people have for baseball was unreal. It was funny looking at Twitter last night, like from like some Tigers fans and Royals fans going, what am I going to do now? I don't want watching the Royals and Tigers compared to what we've just watched with the World Baseball Classic is going to be dull. It's going to be numbing. It'd be great if, I don't know how they would do it. This is now where the season, some would say, is too long, 161 games. It could be great if they cut it a little bit and then had like the best teams from USA, Japan, Mexico, from all these countries have like a round robin tournament at the end of a season, like the Champions League in football, something like that, just to bring, the best teams around the world together. Maybe have the USA going to Japan and playing like a one-off series at the end of the year, or have a country coming, get these countries playing expedition games, just something to keep the momentum going. Get these teams out there, get this Japanese team. It'd be great in the off season if you had like a USA team. Okay, maybe not for the big stars, but some good names, household names coming to the UK and playing an expedition game against Britain or something. It would be amazing.
I don't see a reason not to. And at the same time, I wonder if there's any merit to, like, if your team makes a postseason, then, you're not allowed to send players to the World Baseball Classic. But then you take the great players from, tanking teams or just not as good teams, and let them play meaningful baseball in a World Baseball Classic type scenario. I don't see why you couldn't do it every year. Like, just make postseason players exempt from it so that they get a little bit more time to rest and recover, and send the people that don't participate in the postseason off to go play in some meaningful baseball. Like, that feels like a pretty good compromise to me.
Absolutely. And the players loved it. Trout, sign me up. Next one. Harper wants to get involved. He was meant to be there. It was awesome seeing Turner and JT and Schwab's, really and carrying a USA team at times.
Truly.
Trey Turner, just unreal. The final, I'm happy Japan won because I think it's great final. Otani versus Trout at the end, that last at bat, that was awesome. Come on,
A
doesn't
moment
matter
that
who
I
you're
will tell
rooting
my
for.
children about, like truly,
Awesome.
truly.
Otani's just a superstar. He's a generational talent. Like there's no, I don't think there's gonna be anyone like him to his level of what he can do. I can't see it ever. He is just an incredible generational superstar talent, worldwide, global, unreal. Unreal.
I watched the game from a Japanese bar yesterday,
Oh wow.
and it was I can't even begin to explain how cool it was to see so many people admire, like, not just Shohei either, like everybody on that Japanese team.
Yeah.
Just to see them admired in a way that, like, folks in the US admire our all-stars, like, but to a degree where, like, they really love those players. They do. And it was incredible. It was so much fun getting to watch Japan win in that context was just unbelievable. It's a moment I will never forget.
Yeah, and also there's some real talent not in the MLB yet that are surely going to come over. There's some scouts rubbing their hands. Some teams rubbing their hands. They'll be, I think, on the phones pretty shortly getting some of these guys in because.
Well, they have to wait for some of them to be posted, but like,
yeah.
Munetaka Murakami is like everybody's dream over here. So I mean, that's pretty exciting. That's the other great thing about the World Baseball Classic, though. You get to actually see these guys who are going to eventually, Roki Sasaki, Munetaka Murakami. Obviously, Masataka Yoshida is going to play this year, but like getting to see those guys ahead of just like their posting dates and things like that it's invaluable. It generates excitement for when they actually come over. Like that is a really, really cool thing to me.
Brilliant, and it's got me giddy for the new season now. I'm ready. Yeah. I watched that final.
Me too.
I've enjoyed the tournament. It's passed some great time, and now that's it. Get me to next week. Get me to DeGrom versus Wheeler or Nola, whoever it's going to be on opening day. Phils, the big news last night. Or there's some news breaking now.
Yes. It's not good news, Dave.
Ranger Suarez had a setback this week.
Yes.
Shut down for a few more days. Strong's possibility he won't be ready for the first week of the new season. Not overly concerned. They could move forward with Matt Strahm until Ranger is back. All right, I will cover the pitching shortly. I didn't want to read that. Don't bring me down.
I'm just disappointed. Ranger Suarez seems to never get a chance to start the season normally.
No.
Which is really unfortunate.
Damn it.
He'll be fine.
All right, we'll get there. Right. Positive. Potentially. No Bryce on the 60-day IL, which would be huge because if he was to go on, the earliest they could activate him would be May the 29th, which means leaving this open could mean we could have Bryce back in that lineup in the DH spot earlier than May the 29th. People saying we could miss half a season. It could just be the opening month and a half. They are very happy with Bryce Harper's progress right now. Alex, this also has some repercussions as well for the rest of the roster as well, and players who are going to miss out.
Yeah, it definitely makes you feel a little less inclined to make space on the 40-man roster. Initially, if they were going to place him on the 60-day IL, then they would have been able to, have a free spot on the 40-man to carry somebody that maybe they wouldn't have normally carried. But it looks like the only spot, I mean, it's not like they're short on roster spots. Like they have a lot of guys. Andrew Vasquez is one, Luis Ortiz, some guys that are just, kind of milling about on the 40-man roster.
Yeah.
Waiver claims that they're not necessarily, pressed to keep. So it's not like they're short on space, but again, you can kind of hang on to these players for as long as you want until you have to create space for them. So, if they were going to add somebody like Scott Kingery to the roster, well, that would require them, designating another player for assignment, and maybe that makes them feel a little less inclined to do that. They have to make space already for Noah Song, who is probably going to start the season on the injured list. But,
True.
you know, they have to make space when the season rears its head. So, you know, they already have to open up one spot. I'm not sure if they're too inclined to open up a second for, you know, so it definitely lessens Scott Kingery's chances. And it definitely lessens, you know, guys that aren't already on the 40-man roster. Whereas guys like Jake Cave, Josh Harrison, you know, these other bench players are already, you know, they've already got spots on the 40.
Yeah, let's dive into that because that was just coming up. The Phils spring is nearly done. 6 more games left. They've hit 45 home runs so far. That's without JT, Turner, and Shaw, but that is the most in baseball as it stands. The 146 RBIs they have is second in all of baseball at the moment. They're having a nice spring. I know stats don't mean too much, but it's still nice that the Phils have the power. You know, they're taking the offense is really attacking spring, you know, and they're having fun. It's looking effortless. Alec Bohm, Rhys Hoskins, Derek Hall, Sosa in particular having excellent springs. You know, Alec Bohm, I'm all aboard the breakout Alec Bohm this year. I think he's going to have a fantastic year. Not really monster bench battles as such, because like we said, we think this is pretty much settled now, isn't it? But let's go through some of the guys who have had a good spring and put themselves on the radar. You know, if we do get injuries, if we do get struggles, these guys in particular, I'm about to go through 4 players in particular who I think have had a good spring, a really good spring. So let's start with Jake Cave, who not many had heard of before the season comes in. By the way, Cave, Kingery, Harrison, and Weston Wilson stats for spring are scrolling across the bottom of your screen right now for those watching on YouTube. Jake Cave, 40 at-bats so far this spring, an average of 4.425. Now, Jake Cave's career average is 0.235. So, you know, either this is the Kevin Long magic working right now, or Cave's about to have a big breakout year of his own. And I would love to see it. But I'm a little bit apprehensive with Jake Cave's numbers right now. But it's fantastic. 2 triples, 3 home runs, 12 RBIs, 1 stolen base, some good defense in there as well. Jake Cave has had a fantastic spring. He is more than that bench spot.
Yeah, I think he's pretty guaranteed to get it. I think that, you know, obviously when the Phillies, we talked about this a little bit last time we recorded, but you know, the Phillies saw something in Jake Cave. They claimed him off of waivers, and he was owed an actual major league salary of, I think it's $950,000. But even then, you know, that's more than league minimum, right? So they obviously saw something in him where they said, okay, this is a guy that we are probably going to carry on our roster. Let's just claim him now. So they did, and it has paid dividends this spring at the very least. I mean, he's just hitting everything hard. You know, has struggled against lefties at times, but has, you know, shown
the contact, Alex. Yeah, the contact has looked really hard. Like,
yes,
he's really smashing,
slugging the baseball. Typically at like the top of the exit velocity leaderboard for every StatCast game. It's either him or it's Derek Hall, and there really isn't much in between. They have been scalding when it comes to, you know, slapping the baseball. They've been really great, and especially Jake Cave. I mean, the big thing for the Phillies, I think, was to just have somebody who is suitable defensively. And Cave has definitely shown that he can cover the corners, probably not center field, even though they've played him a couple times there. Probably mostly a corner guy, but with a really strong arm. He, if I recall, I think he made a really great play at the plate earlier this spring. And he nabbed a runner trying to get home. So, you know, obviously showed off a really strong arm. He has shown a really decent glove in the corners, and obviously the bat has been the leading factor there. So
absolutely,
I think he's a name that's pretty set in stone to make the bench.
Oh, nice Cave Stone joke there. Little, don't know if that was intentional or not, but
it wasn't, but I'll slip more in there.
And then the battle between Kingery and Harrison. Look, I don't see the Phils giving Harrison £2 million and then not putting him on the bench straight away to start the season. But Kingery has, I'm really happy to say, got his name out there. You know, he keeps doing what he's been doing this spring in AAA. he's ready. He's ready to step in. He's ready to be a bench guy. The comeback story. Some people are saying, why is everyone wanting Kingery in? Why is everyone wanting Kingery back? Well, I think, first of all, we all love a good comeback story, right? We all love a comeback, and Kingery's comeback has been great. He's been lost in the minors for a few years now, and Kevin Long has worked with him a lot, especially in the off season. Scotty said, him and Kevin Long have been working together a lot, either via Zoom or videos or just on contact over the phone. And now in training camp itself, he got there early to work with Kevin as well. He's really desperate to get back into that lineup and on the bench. And if not even that, but to get himself back noticed, maybe by other teams. Maybe we could force a trade for him. Maybe he could get picked up elsewhere. He's having a nice spring, 42 ABs, including today's game against the Rays, average of 0.357, good. Runners in scoring position, clutch-wise, hasn't quite done it, and he's hitting more against the pitches he's likely to see in the minors. He has had a few noticeable big hits, 1 home run, 3 RBIs, but Kingery's on the radar. I still think to go with Harrison. Harrison, although his average this spring isn't great, he's got 8 RBIs. He does come in clutch, Also, Harrison's career average is better than I thought it was. 0.72, 272 career average, 71 home runs, 378 RBIs, a 0.716 OPS. Got the experience. He's got the defense. He's got the versatility. They've just paid him $2 million to be on the roster. I think they do start with Harrison. He's a bit of a proven known factor, isn't he?
He's also beloved in the clubhouse and is an incredible base runner and I could go on and on. He's a veteran presence. He's definitely making the roster. And anybody, there was a Baseball America article that went out that I think inspired a couple of people to say some things about Scott Kingery. It basically was saying some scout somewhere said, if I were the Phillies, I would cut Josh Harrison right now and start Kingery over him, like blah, 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 blah. It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. At worst, Josh Harrison does poorly on the bench, and then maybe the Phillies make a decision from there. But why would you get rid of one of your best clubhouse presences as well as, a veteran leader? Again, I could go on and on and on. It just doesn't make any sense. They also have to free up a 40-man spot for Kingery. And again, it's just something that I could go for hours about. But it doesn't make a lot of sense in the end. But I do think, and something you said has a lot of merit, Dave. Listen, Scott Kingery, yes, is owed $4 million this year, but he also has 2 team options following this year. Now, I don't think anybody is going to take Scott Kingery for $12.5 million. But if Scott Kingery shows enough flashes in the minors in the first half of the season, and then, maybe some team wants to take a chance and not let him hit free agency or something of that nature, I think it's very likely that he, and I shouldn't say very likely. I think it's definitely likely that there will be teams, interested in him at the very least. Particularly non-competitive teams that maybe they will have
Nationals, Royals, Reds, exactly. Pirates. Yeah.
So I think, we saw it last year with Mickey Moniak, right? Like Mickey Moniak had an incredible spring, got hurt, but rebuilt enough value to be worth Noah Syndergaard at the trade deadline. A trade deadline in which starting pitching was sparse. So, stranger things have happened. Right. So I do think that, it's going to be interesting to see how Kingery does in AAA. I think if he shows enough promise, there really could be some interest generated in him, which would be a fascinating story. And I wish him nothing but the best. It is unfortunate that he is already, coming to the end of his 20s. And already is finally just starting to kind of refigure himself out. But I hope he goes somewhere and has a really long, successful career.
Yeah, I do. If it's not with us, then I'll be absolutely following his progress and all the best to him. Talking to AAA, I've got my Lehigh Valley tickets for the Iron Pigs for the Friday night against the is it Rail Raiders?
Rail Riders, yeah.
Rail Riders, the big rivals
SWB.
to the Iron Pigs as well. Yeah. So on Friday, the 7th of April, cannot wait. First minor league game as well, so I'm
you're gonna love it. You're gonna
And
love
I'm gonna be there for little Scotty's little fan club behind
it.
home dugout. Can't wait. And I'm gonna give an admiral mention to Weston Wilson, who I think's had a fantastic spring.
Yeah, been great.
33 ABs, an average of 303, 2 home runs, 8 RBIs, 2 stolen bases. He hit the fields, first spring training home run in the first game, and everyone was like, "Who's this guy?" And since then, I've been watching him and keeping my eye on him, and he's had a really, really good spring. And another player who could, maybe not this year, but keeps it again doing the same as Kingery in the minors, keeps the bat hot. We could see him take a bench spot.
I have been particularly impressed with his glove. He's played everywhere very,
Versatility,
very well. And I think that's really enticing. I think that if the Phillies can somehow manage to hang on to him past this year, he has a great shot at making the bench in subsequent years. That being said, I have no doubt what he did in spring was enough to catch some eyes from around other clubs. I do think that, if he does head to minor league free agency, he'll probably, he'll get picked up by another team. But yeah, definitely a guy that I could see debuting with the Phillies at some point, depending on injuries and things like that. Unfortunately, and I'm sure we're going to get to this, but the bench is pretty chock full at this point.
Well,
so it's
we're
going
there
to
now.
it's going to take some specific circumstances.
And not only that, but the bench is all MLB starting. Souza could start for pretty much any other team. If we didn't have Turner,
I mean, he might start for this one.
If Stotts, we're going to start in just a second, but if his little struggles continue, Souza is more than a capable backup, and probably as it stands, I think many would be in the same boat. Hey, let's give Souza some playing time.
He's gonna get it.
He's having a fantastic spring. It's going to be Derek Hall. Some saying Derek Hall may not get on the bench, but I don't see any other. You gotta have him. You gotta have him in. He's going to absolutely mash.
Well, remember, he doesn't need to be because there's no Bryce Harper, right? He doesn't need to be on the bench. He'll be the designated hitter more likely than not. I think that, he's not going to start every single game, but he's definitely going to get in there for the most part against right-handed pitching for sure. He's making the team.
It's going to be Cave, Harrison, Souza, Stubbs, Hall, isn't it? I don't see any other, unless Stubbs isn't quite ready, but they're quite confident he will be.
At that point,
I don't think the bench will be like anything else. And it's what a bench. Souza, Hall, really Harrison, Cave, all players who could start many a game for a lot of teams out there in the MLB. So the depth we have, and then players like Kingery, Wilson, and others as well who have looked ready, who could come up.
Cody Clemens.
Cody Clemens, who got a double today. Yeah, who got some more RBIs to his name. Yeah, he got traded. He was in the Tigers trade with
yes, he was.
Veerling and Maton, wasn't he? That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So yeah, and he looks pretty ready. He's ready to make his step.
You know what's crazy? I before we move on, I tweeted something about the two of them. Rob Orr on Twitter a while ago. He tweeted how similar Nick Maton and Cody Clemens are at the plate in terms of just their load and their stance. And they really are. They're incredibly similar. But up until about a couple days ago, they were having really similar springs too. It's on my Twitter. It's kind of eerie how similar they have progressed this spring.
Yeah,
but
so far pretty like for like, isn't it?
I really thought Clemens was just a throw-in piece. Just a guy that they could have on their 40-man roster that they're like, going to look at and say, okay, well, just in case. But listen, another guy scalding the baseball. Another guy who has really taken some strides. He really the big concern with him was whiffs, swing and miss, and he didn't do a lot of that this spring. So I don't know. I'm very, very interested in Cody Clemens as well because
he'll be in AAA, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
So I mean, just another guy that you look at and you say, well, and you look at this Lehigh Valley team all of a sudden. You've got an outfield of, and I don't know if Carlos De La Cruz is going to play the outfield or first base, but you got an outfield of like Carlos De La Cruz, Johan Rojas, and Simon Muzziotti. You've got an infield of Scott Kingery, Weston Wilson, Cody Clemens, and whoever's going to play first base while Derek Hall is, up at the major league level. And I don't know if he'll ever go back down, but we'll see. And then Rafael Marchand behind the plate when he feels better. Like, that's a
Dude, I'm excited.
good squad.
I'm excited to see these guys when I'm going. I can't wait.
The rotation is, Mick Abel at some point, Andrew Painter probably at some point, Griff McGarry, Noah Skiro, just like actual names. Like, that Lehigh Valley team could really win a lot of games this year. They're going to be really, really fun to watch. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dalton Guthrie's been a little bit disappointing.
Oh, Dalton Guthrie as well. Yes.
Guthrie's slightly probably gone down a little bit of the pecking order, hasn't he? But he's not the spring that he hoped for, because he going into spring was meant to be fighting Marsh for not a platoon, but you'd think definitely a bench spot.
I think more fighting Cave, but yeah, I think
I meant Cave. Sorry.
Yeah. But I guess it was a little disappointing to see him, not capitalize off of the momentum he built, but he's still, he's right there. He is probably still ahead of, guys like Weston Wilson. I'm not sure if he's ahead of Scott Kingery anymore, just because everybody seems to be in love with Scott Kingery. I got to tell you, I'm rooting for him. I love what I've seen. I don't see all the big changes that everyone is, making a fuss over, but that's not to say that I'm not rooting for him. I can't wait, but I think Guthrie has also made huge strides, especially over the last 2 years. Just insane. So, I'd say the two of them are probably highest up on that pecking order.